For Poland Daily News, I'm Phil Goss. Polish political leaders commented about yesterday's dramatic situation at the U.S. Capitol building in Washington, D.C. Supporters of President Trump were demanding a recount of presidential election votes they consider fraudulent. President Andrzej Duda was quite cautious when commenting on the events taking place at the U.S. Capitol. The things that happened in Washington, D.C. are an internal affair of the United States, which is a democratic state governed in accordance with the rule of law. Who holds power depends on the will of the electorate. The security of the state and its citizens is guaranteed by the authorities created to deal with the task. Poland believes in the strength of American democracy. Some compared the situation in the U.S. with that in Poland. If this is how the transition of power looks in the U.S., I'm afraid to think what it might look like in the future in Poland. A spokesperson of the Polish People's Party said that the lesson that needs to be drawn is to use measured language. If there's any lesson that we can learn from what happened in the U.S., it is that we should all use rational language. There is no need to make any sweeping comparisons with the political situation in Poland, because I don't believe that any political formation leaving power here would instigate any kinds of riots. Representatives of the Left Party argue that the unrest in Washington shows that it's time to reorient Poland's foreign policy to the European Union instead of focusing on the United States. What happened in the Capitol may be shocking, but it shouldn't come as a surprise to us, as Donald Trump, this crazy billionaire who, on behalf of his own interests, is trying to organize a coup, didn't magically appear from nowhere. American democracy has been in crisis for years, so we have to rethink Polish foreign policy and clearly bet on Europe, on our neighbors, which are located close to us. International affairs expert Jarosław Guzy is of a different opinion. It's important to have respect for voters and democracy. This is what President Andrzej Duda conveyed in his statement. Unlike other world leaders, he did not lecture the Americans, but expressed confidence in their democracy. I think that this could be the start of good relations with the Biden administration. Joe Biden will be sworn in as the next president of the United States in 13 days. The chaos on Capitol Hill attracted the interest of Poles. We went out on the streets of Warsaw to find out what they think. I think that Americans will come to their senses and will clean this mess up. The winner is the one who won the most votes. Yesterday's scenes were scandalous. Those are Americans. They went to defend their rights, but how will it all end? It's hard to say. The U.S. is the cradle of democracy. The attack on the Capitol sure wasn't democratic. I think that the election results could have been tampered with, and people are clearly upset with that. Portugal took over the EU's 6-month rotating presidency at the start of January. In an interview with Reuters, Portugal's Minister of Finance, João Leão, has outlined his priorities for EU fiscal policy during the COVID-19 pandemic, underlining the need to prolong the flexible fiscal rules introduced last year. Flexible EU fiscal rules meant to help member states weather the pandemic and return to economic growth should stay in place until 2022. The Portuguese finance minister also emphasized how a smooth implementation of the EU's recovery fund will be essential. The European Commission, which is in charge of enforcing EU fiscal rules, last year suspended requirements to keep government deficits below 3% of GDP and to cut public debt below 60% of GDP as the coronavirus pandemic hit the economy hard all across Europe. João Leão cautioned against removing the temporary rules prematurely.
You have to make sure the fiscal policy into 2021 remains supportive of growth. And for that, we need to not withdraw the exceptional rules that you create for this year too early.
The Portuguese politician emphasized that states must have access to strong temporary measures that will keep economies afloat.
So we make sure that for this year and next year we have flexibility and this to help support economic growth. It's true that we have also to have in mind the medium-term fiscal sustainability. So we need room to have strong temporary measures to support the economy.
For that, the €750 billion recovery fund, agreed on last month in the European Council, was essential. Leão said that amid the challenges triggered by a fresh wave of COVID-19 infections, it was key that the ECB provide stability.
We have these national debt are very high. It's very important to keep financial stability. So it's very important when we have this uncertainty that the ECB provides stability and make sure that the monetary conditions are well. How can I say? They are spread to all countries, so all countries benefit from the good monetary conditions and that support growth.
The second priority of Portugal's EU presidency regarding economic matters is moving forward with the Banking Union and Capital Markets Union. Leão said he hoped for some progress in the first half of the year regarding plans for a European deposit insurance scheme, the missing piece of the European Union's plan for a banking union. The Portuguese government expects its tourism-dependent economy to grow by 5.4% this year, after its 8.5% slump in 2020, Portugal's worst recession in more than a century. The vaccination process in Poland is gaining momentum, but at the moment, only people from the so-called zero group are eligible. Doctors and medical personnel will have priority access until January 15th. Starting in mid-January, Group 1 will begin receiving vaccinations, meaning seniors over 70, teachers, and uniformed service personnel. Michał Dworczyk, Chief of Staff for the Prime Minister, said that on January 15th, all eligible individuals will know the place and date of their initial and second vaccinations. Authorities will release further details early next week. More information about COVID vaccinations in Poland is available at telephone number 989. The number of Poles who have received the first dose of COVID vaccinations has reached 177,000, placing Poland third in the EU for the total number administered. 616 vaccination locations have been set up across the country. Authorities have distributed more than 200,000 doses of the COVID-19 vaccine, while another 500,000 are currently in storage. 5.9 million doses in total are expected to reach Poland by the end of March. 215 doses have been discarded due to expiration or mishandling, while 8 people have suffered from side effects after receiving the vaccine. Germany has managed to distribute a first dose to almost 370,000 people, while 307 Italians have been inoculated. Poland comes in third with 177,000, followed by Spain with 139,000. The pace of vaccinations in Poland is expected to increase next week with the arrival of the Moderna vaccine. For Poland Daily News, I'm Phil Goss. Good night.